Kids can be really sneaky, really secretive, including hiding drugs, and you may have no idea where to look.
Well, we are about ready to teach you how to search your child's bedroom for drugs.
And this is Chick2Chick.
You know, as parents, we don't really want to think about this, but we have to. The reality is, your kids could have been offered drugs. They could be using drugs. You need to be aware of this. You need to be on top of this. And this is a sad statistic, but kids as early as middle school are starting using drugs. By high school, 50% have either used or tried drugs. And what are we talking about? Drugs. We're talking about alcohol. We're talking about pot. We're talking about prescription drugs. Parents, you need to know this stuff. You need to be aware.
Yeah, I grew up in a household where my younger brother, unfortunately, became a drug user. At an early age, he started with marijuana. Then he had an accident, and that was, when the opioids were big, and he had Oxycontin that he was taking, and that led to heroin. But all the way along this journey, there were times, many times, my parents had no idea.
Yeah, they're sneaky.
That he was doing it, that there was certain paraphernalia that they could have picked up on. So it's really important for parents and any other guardian to understand that there could be some real nuances happening of things that you need to really look for to catch your child before it's way too late. So today we have Rebecca Arnold with us, and she is with the Juvenile Probation Office at Dauphin County Juvenile Probation. Rebecca, this is such an important topic. Far too many children are falling into the clutches of drugs. First of all, tell us about what you do and how many children you are seeing and working with.
Well, thank you first for having me here today. And what I do is I am a probation officer, as you said, in Dauphin County. I supervise juveniles, so they have to commit a crime over the age of 10 and under the age of 18 that are on probation, that are on court-ordered conditions of supervision. And what supervision means is I am a school-based officer, so I am located in 2 schools here in Dauphin County, and I go to the houses, I meet with the kids and the parents, I see them in school, make sure that they're, grades, attendance, discipline, all that stuff is that they're doing it positively, and just monitor any programs that they're involved in or counseling or things like that.
So we talked about kids starting with drugs in middle school. Like, I mean, they're babies.
They're 12.
I don't even get that. Where does a middle school student get pot? How are they getting alcohol? Where is this stuff coming from? Why do they have access to it?
Well, the easiest answer I'd have for you is, in my experience and in the kids that I've worked with, it's older siblings. It's older siblings of friends. It's going to others' houses. The alcohol's not locked up. The medicine cabinet, the things aren't secured, and they just take advantage of a situation and learn how to get those things when they want them.
So there's signs we can look for other than just, smelling their breath or smelling an odor on them or whatever. Because these kids are sneaky. Any middle school boy is going to have Axe spray on them, right? So,
Right.
Or 10 pounds of lotion.
PTSD from
Right?
that.
Axe, right?
Yeah.
For all the different lotions. So we know that there are ways that they're going to cover this up. But let's walk us through this, Rebecca. So what are some of the first things that a parent should really, hone in on to identify something's happening?
Behavioral things.
Yeah. Well, when I talked about supervision. I also do intakes, which means I'm the first person that they meet when they come through the door. And some of the things that we talk about are, school and what are their grades? Do they get along with teachers, peers? And when parents start hearing all the questions that I'm asking, who's their best friend? Well, isn't it Johnny? Now I haven't talked to Johnny in a year. And they name another friend and their parents like, I don't know who that is. So noticing that their friends are changing and they're hanging out with a different group of people. Activities, were they very active in sports or clubs or music or play? And now all of a sudden they don't have an interest in it. Sports, church groups, anything that they were normally involved in. And all of a sudden, especially around middle school. So middle school right now is 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. You start noticing in middle school that one by one, those things start dropping away. Then you see the change in clothing. did you used to have that preppy kid? I don't know if they still call them preppy kids, but preppy kids. And now all of a sudden they're wearing all black, and you notice different names of clothing, and they're asking for things that they never asked for before, and names of clothing that you didn't know of, or different, figures, or music stars, or, and not saying, I'm not labeling anything as a sign of drug use, but looking at and taking it as a totality. A lot of parents get stuck in, not my kid, or they just, they raised a good kid up until middle school, and now all of a sudden they didn't realize that there was this thing happening, and the kid's starting to spread their wings, and they're, testing their independence.
Well, you brought something up there. You said, I raised a good kid. And I feel like I raised a good kid too. And I feel like I did everything that I could to, to watch over him and whatnot. And now that he's 26, he's telling me about stuff that went on in high school. And I'm like, dude, I don't know that I want to hear this stuff. But he said things to me like, Mom, you have no idea.
Yep.
He's like, I never bought drugs, but it's just everywhere and people offer it to you. And I just was like, I don't need to hear this. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made it through.
I made it through, but
Yeah.
you did say something. We do raise good kids, but you can't control
No.
what's going on around them. You can't control who's offering them things at school or on the bus or at the football game, but you have to be aware that these things are going on.
Well, so I also feel like this, there's the kid who's going to be with a friend and do something stupid, smoke some cigarettes, have some alcohol. But when you're moving into a child who's now doing some of this on their own, they've made a decision by themselves. I think that's where the fear, I would be very fearful. So let's look at their bedroom, right? So you are saying, this whole thing was about how to check the bedroom, for paraphernalia, signs of anything. So walk us through what that's going to look like.
Well, the first thing I would say is walk in the room. You'd be surprised at how many parents that I've had contact with over the 20 plus years I've been doing this that say, oh, that's his room, I don't go in there. Well, it's your house.
Oh, hell no.
We own that room. Own everything in that room.
Exactly.
Including you until you're 18.
Exactly. Go in the room. And then first, the first thing is look around. Is it clean and neat? Is it just a mess of everything everywhere? Like I said about the clothes and looking at the pictures on the wall or the posters that they have hung up. I mean, when I'm going in a room to search, now I might do it a little bit different than a parent, but it's going to be systematic. I'm going to start at one spot and work my way around the room to get back to where I started. Places that, hiding in plain sight is really where it's at. You walk in the room and you say the Axe body spray. Well, they have Axe body spray canisters that it will spray Axe body spray, but the bottom of it's false, and you can hide things in it. Drugs, large amounts of cash. We found all that. Pills, anything will hide in these small containers. So looking around the room and not taking for granted that what you're looking at is actually what you think it is. Picking it up. Does it feel right? Shaking it, twisting it. I'll take apart everything and anything when I'm looking through a room. Dressers, underneath the drawers, kids tape things underneath the drawers, going in the pockets of the jeans, especially those little pockets in the front that nobody really knows what they're for, but they hide stuff in it. Books, taking apart books and feeling, because the kids have actually cut out the centers and put things in it thinking that nobody's going to pick it up and look what's in it. Oh gosh, beds. You'd be surprised at what I found in mattresses and box springs. Lifting them up and looking at the other side of the mattress, lifting up the box spring, and they'll cut the lining of the box spring so that they can shove their hand up in there. I've found baggies, I've found weed, I've found pipes, all kinds of stuff. Pictures, how pictures, the canvas pictures that are like thicker,
Yes.
you can put stuff on the ledge behind that so that it looks like the picture's on the wall, but when you pull it off, all this stuff falls out. So
You are talking about things that my parents ended up finding, with my brother. And my mother was dumbstruck. She just felt like a complete fool, and this is well into his drugs. But there was something that kind of blew my mind. Deconstructed pens, broken apart pens
Yeah.
Well, we just thought, oh my gosh, why are you breaking all these pens? What are you so irritated about? You're just getting mad and breaking a pen. But these pens that were also taken apart, they were used in drug use.
Yep.
Had no idea.
Yep. Yeah, I was working with one of the local police departments, and it was a ride along kind of thing. You know, we would do probation stops if we needed to. And I'm in the car with this officer, and we stopped because a car was at a park like after hours or whatever. So the car is opened up, the people get out, and I look in the or the well of the car door, and there's a big pen. The officer looked in there first, and he's like, "It's a pen," and I look at it like, "It's not a pen. And it had been used to smoke something." You could see like the burnt and the resiny kind of stuff that was at the one end of it. So yeah, that's exactly a good example. Looking at like highlighters. Highlighters are a big one that you can take the guts out of it, but it still looks like a highlighter, and then shove things in the end of it.
Well, I was at one of your demonstrations, and the one thing that struck me too is that you pulled out a baseball cap, right? And there was a little zipper in there. And I'm like, what? Like,
Yes.
what is that all about?
Well, there's clothing lines out there who are very supportive of people who want to hide stuff. I don't want to make it labeled like drug users, but it's several different lines of clothing, shoes that have hidden pockets throughout them. Baseball caps, like in the line or in the front, they make little pockets. A lot of them, if you look at where the decal is, so one of them I think uses a crown. So if the crown's on the left side, look where the crown is, because that's probably where the pocket is. There's a couple clothing lines that whenever you're searching clothing, you pick up a t-shirt and you think, oh, it's just a t-shirt. There's nothing in it. But if you look along the seams and the hem, there's hidden pockets throughout the shirts. Shoes are the same way. The tongues, companies now make them with zippers on them, so you can hide things down in the tongue of the sneakers or the shoes. Yeah, those are big.
I know sometimes, I know some people do, or excuse me, some businesses do that for travel because they're trying to, make sure you can travel safely. And I get that. And of course, a kid who wants to hide something, anybody who wants to hide something, they're going to find a way to do it. Okay, so what do? You're a parent and you are concerned and you're not sure what to look for. Do they call you? What do they do first? Because their kid's probably going to be like, I'm not doing anything. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So, anyone's always welcome to call me. I have people that, families that just knew who I am because I've been in the schools for so long, call me and ask me questions. And I never would turn anybody away. But if you were a parent that wasn't involved in probation, your kid hadn't gotten charged with the drugs yet, but you think something's going on. I think that parents forget, and you guys talked about it, like, this is my house. Your room is in my house. Kids thrive off of boundaries. And I think as what I'm seeing is that now as kids get into middle school and high school, they're given a lot more freedom to go where they want and do what they want. We have that computer in our hand that just lets us, access Uber or get food delivered or go meet our friends here. And I just think that kids have a lot more availability to do things that maybe in the past that they were a little bit under a tighter rein. And I think that starting boundaries and enforcing them and consequences and taking phones, I take a phone as a consequence. That's the end of the world for the kid.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't breathe when you take their phone away from them.
Breathe. They don't know how to function.
It's tough. I mean, when you have so much going on in your life, and you don't want to have, the confrontation with your kids about things. You don't want to think that they're doing something really bad behind your back. I mean, that's just like, you can't process that. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm here to say that you got to have your eyes wide open from an early age of your child. And you really have to understand that you have to let them know, I love you. I am here for you, but I am watching you like a hawk. I am watching your back, and it's only for your benefit. And I think when kids can understand that their parents have their best interest, I feel like that would create just a better relationship. And hopefully these kids won't even go down that road.
There are battles to pick. Like, my son's a picky eater. I'm over that battle. I'm done with that.
Yep.
But this battle,
no, you're never done with that.
I'm on the front lines, right?
Yes.
You're right. And you got to cross that finish line, and then you can be their friend later.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're so grateful that you tuned in for the podcast. If you like what you see, please head over to our YouTube channel, Chick2Chick USA. Like, but you got to subscribe as well. That way, every time we come out with a new podcast episode, you can get a little ding on your phone, so you know to watch and to tune in. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back soon with a new podcast episode.